please don't get discouraged. It's your own design, it's your own style. So be patient. That's the name of the game in bonsai. Hi, I'm miltonchang of Bonsaiheirloom. It's a warm spring day, a wonderful, beautiful day. I show you the tree peony, the white one, because now it's a blooming season. I planted this about 3 years ago, and it's starting to bloom. Last year, 1 blossom, and this year it looks like we'll have about 6 blossom. I had many failures in growing tree peony because I think I learned from it in terms of soil mix. I planted tree peony in very porous soil with a lot of compost, and they did not do well. In fact, a good number of them died. What they actually like is more of a clayey soil. My belief is that the starting point of your soil mix has to be very clayey. But then tree also needs air, and therefore you need it to add compost, not the other way around. That means thinking you want something really porous to start. And of course, you can do hydroponic, which is totally porous, but that you have to be very measured in terms of the amount of water you provide it and frequently and so forth. But certain trees I don't think will grow hydroponically. So like tree peony actually really likes muddy soil. So keep that in mind when you think about your soil mix for the particular tree that you have. And I will go into a more in-depth discussion about soil mix next time. Before I begin, I'd like to share with you an email, very touching email, very eye-opener email from a person named David. I'll read sections of it. I gained a deeper appreciation of your approach this week. After I attended a bonsai workshop, I brought a tree, and because I want an input to learn. The presenter dismissed the material as not worthy their time, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, I bring a tree, I need guidance. So what do you mean by not worth your time? I mean, every tree is worth my time. One of the large specimen plant was owned by a 90-year-old gentleman who had a tree in the national collection. His son was working under his direction. The presenter then pressed their views and became agitated because you need to cut here and need to cut there. And finally, the old man pointed out that making that one big cut would jeopardize the structure, the well-being of the size of the plant. So the point I emphasize is that you got to look at the merits of each tree. You cannot go in with a preconceived notion what the tree has to be, because nature is very broad, and it can be any shape, form, or design based on the environment. So this 90-year-old man had an idea about his tree in a sense to depict the conditions growing in. It's not for anyone's kind of opinion to say, I want to change it to something else. And I think that really, in some sense, gives me an appreciation of what I do and what I emphasize. One is that when you lemon make lemonade, that means follow the nature of what the tree is already providing you. And then nudge the nature along. Let the tree grow in accordance with the wish of nature. And then you modify it to suit your own design. So it's like nudging nature along rather than trying to modify to make every tree fitting your ideal. And the point is that if you look at a lot of the show trees, they are beautifully done. And so it's not like they are wrong, but every tree is more or less a beautiful trunk and then a hat. So I think what we need to do is learn the basics and then morph it, modify it to suit our own ideal. That's our creativity, and that's what bonsai is about. It's a living art, a canvas for you to create your own insight. What we're selling you is a blank canvas. Call it a messy tree, which is not. You pick out the design in your own head and then cut it back to shape. Eventually, it'll be your shape. And the secret of doing that is don't worry about the thickness of the trunk of the branch, but rather where the placement of the branch, so that eventually you follow the turn and twist of your design. Yeah, so I think the lesson we learned is that please don't get discouraged. It's your own design, it's your own style, it's your own doing, it's your own creativity. And give me this kind of feedback so that I can share that with the rest of the audience. But do your thing is my message. And just like Nike says, just do it. And so enjoy your journey the bonsai hobby. Thank you. Now let me jump into the Q&A. The first question is, can you tell me if you can grow a plant from a seed? Do you train or style in the first 6 months? Well, look at this tree. This is a 60 feet tall tree that I started from a seed 25 years ago. Yes, you can start a bonsai from a seed. And I generally don't recommend that you start training too early. Let the tree grow a while and cut it back once or twice a year, maybe in the beginning, maybe cut it after the second year. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend you do it the first 6 months. I know some traditional bonsai supplier, vendor, they tend to wire the sapling to a really weird shape because people have the idea bonsai is very contrived. Of course, I advocate a natural look. So I actually don't ever wire my trees like that to shape it to start. I could, but I don't. May I make a few questions possibly the next Q&A? For outdoor tree, how do you keep the soil from water away from the bonsai? And then also, how do I keep the soil away from washed away due to heavy rain from a tree? First of all, bonsai pot, generally the pot is a little bit taller than where the soil line ends, so it's okay. It will never wash away. What happens is it's actually the soil is not washed away, but getting more compacted as time goes on. In fact, what I recommend is that for the tree to do well, you need to compress it several times in the beginning when you water. After you water, you press it down really hard so that the soil is compacted to get close contact with the roots so that it will grow. Unless you water a lot, you can train it so that it will always get water, but you need to count on the soil to provide the moisture. And as far as washing away in a natural habitat, I'm sure there's some washing away, especially if it's slow. But if it's not, it's really more compacting. But once the tree is established, the soil is firm, I don't think there's much erosion. You make me fall in love with bonsai trees. Do you sell your bonsai or just have a collection? Well, I certainly have a collection, about 100 and then 75 that comes later. Some of the later ones are even better. But as I mentioned, I want to focus on selling the trees we produce as a production. And initial production quantities will be very limited because it takes time for the trees to grow to our satisfaction. But we look out, send us your email address so we can notify you when the trees are available. I think bonsai is a perfect gift for an occasion because it's such a thoughtful gift. With that in mind, then, to answer your question, the short answer is yes, we will have trees for sale, ready for shipping before Thanksgiving. Okay, the next question is that I have a wisteria for a couple of years now, wisteria bonsai for a couple of years now, but I've never seen a flower. Well, that's similar to my experience. I have one bonsai, which I did not show you in a pot. It's been in a pot for at least 2 years. The one I just showed you last time was in the ground for 3 years before I dug it up, or 2 years actually. So my guess is that wisteria does not bloom after roots are greatly disturbed. So I'm pretty confident you will see good flowering next year, in abundance of flower the year following. So be patient. That's the name of the game in bonsai. I would have thought the mossy side of the tree trunk will always get the least sun. So their place in the garden should determine how it's shaded. But maybe the trunk moss is a later thing. Nor much moss in the Mojave Desert. Moss tend to dry up in dry climate. Never mind Mojave Desert. So I don't think it will grow much. On the other hand, your environment is artificially created. If you mist it frequently and keep it moist, and soil that's relatively clayey, not porous, I think even you can grow moss in the desert. But yes, moss tend to grow in a moist, wet, shaded area. That's because that's where it's moist. I don't think it can grow anywhere if you provide a lot of moisture. The other thing I hear a lot about is that there are comments about not to let moss get on your shari or dead wood because it will cause the tree trunk to rot. It may have some effect, but I don't think so. I think the moss really gets plenty moisture and nutrient just from the water you put in, or the moisture or the fertilizer you put on occasionally. So in fact, I have the small cork Japanese pine I showed you a few months ago. I sprayed a little bit of a moss on it, a powder on it, and also I sprayed a little bit of moss powder. Well, I spray moss powder on every one of my bonsai recently onto the elm tree over the rock. And I tell you, the moss that grew on the rock where it took and on the dead wood are really quite spectacular. I think the benefit far outweighs the little additional rot it may cause. So with that in mind, then I hope you like my video. Click like as my reward, and subscribe to our channel so we can notify you a new video. And write to us about what you would like to buy from us. I really need the feedback, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much. See you next week.